In this lesson, we're going to talk about the 5 marketing metrics that you need to know and why. So here they are. The first one is EPC, or earnings per click, sometimes referred to as average visitor value. The second one is cost per click, or sometimes referred to as cost per visitor. The third one is average front-end transaction value. The fourth one is cost per sale. And the fifth one is lifetime customer value. So let's go through each one of these. I'll tell you what it is and why you absolutely need to know them. The first one is earnings per click. Now, earnings per click tells you how much a single click or a single visitor is worth to you. Now, why do you need to know this? Well, you need to know earnings per click because it tells you what you can afford to invest per click or what you can afford to invest to generate a visitor, right? You have no way of knowing how much you can afford to spend to generate a click, to generate a visitor, if you don't know what that visitor is worth, right? It's why the idea of pay-per-click, certain pay-per-click engines, for example, or certain aspects of Facebook advertising being too expensive, well, too expensive is all relative. It all depends on what your earnings per click are. The reality is that if you were paying $5 per click, $5 to generate a click on an ad, or $5 to generate a single visitor, well, we don't know if that's too expensive, if that's too high, unless we know what a click, what a visitor is worth, right? Maybe your earnings per click are $6. So to spend $5 a click, that means every click or every visitor, you generate $1. That'd be great. Hopefully you can spend as much money as possible to generate those clicks because every single click is worth money to you. And so that is earnings per click. And that's why you need to know what a click is worth to you, because it tells you what you can afford to spend to get a click, to get a visitor. The second metric is cost per click. And cost per click tells you how much it costs you to generate a single click or to generate a visitor. This is the flip side of the earnings per click. And again, you need to know cost per click because without knowing your cost per click cost or cost per visitor cost, knowing EPC doesn't tell you whether an ad campaign is viable or not. In other words, you can hear about somebody having an earnings per click of $10. Well, is that good? Well, it depends. It depends on what it costs them to generate a click, what it costs them to generate a visitor. If they have an EPC of $10, but it costs them $15 to generate a click, well, then that campaign is in the toilet. And so this is why you need to know earnings per click and cost per click. One without the other is useless, and you need to know both. The next metric is average front-end transaction value. Average front-end transaction value tells you how much on average each new customer spends with you their first transaction. So this is if you added up all of the new customer transactions that you've had over the last 30 days, if you totaled up the revenue and you divided that revenue by the total number of new customers, that would give you average front-end transaction value. Well, you need to know this metric because it tells you what you can afford to invest to acquire a new customer without going negative, meaning without losing money. So if you average up your total new customer revenue from the last 30 days and you divide it by the total number of new customers you got, and you find that your average front-end transaction value is $50, what that means is you can afford to spend up to $50 to acquire a new customer, but you cannot spend more than that. You cannot afford to go above $50 because if you do, you'll go negative. You'll lose money on that campaign. And so average front-end transaction value tells you how much the average new customer is worth, which tells you how much you can afford to spend to acquire a new customer. The next metric is cost per sale. And again, this is the flip side of average front-end transaction value. Cost per sale tells you how much did it cost you on average to generate a sale, to generate a new customer. And so here, what you do is you take your total advertising costs for the last 30 days, you total up the total expense that you invested in your front-end marketing to generate new customers, and then you divide that number by the total number of new customers that you acquired. And that'll tell you the average cost per sale. For example, maybe the average cost per sale was $50. If you spent $500, for example, just to keep math real simple, and you acquired 10 new customers, well, that's 500 divided by 10. That's $50, a $50 cost per sale. Well, if your average front-end transaction value was $50, well, that means you broke even. And that's a good job. That's okay. You acquired 10 new customers for free, right? See, the reason why you need to know cost per sale is because when it's subtracted from your average front-end transaction value, it tells you the return on investment per new customer, right? You've got what is the average new customer worth? What does it cost you to generate a new customer? And those two numbers will tell you your return on investment. Are you breaking even? Are you generating money? Or are you losing money? The last metric that you need to know is arguably the most important over the long haul of your business, and it's lifetime customer value. Lifetime customer value tells you how much an average customer is worth to your business over the lifespan of their entire patronage. So it tells you really, in essence, what the average customer is worth to your business. Is the average customer worth $1,000, $2,000, $500, $60, right? What is the average customer worth to you? You see, you need to know lifetime customer value because when viewed alongside ROI on the front end, it tells you how much profit you stand to gain per customer. And so what I mean by that is, let's say your average lifetime customer value is $1,000, just to keep things simple. That means that on average, every new customer you get spends $1,000 with you. Well, let's say that it costs you on average $50 to acquire a new customer. And let's say that the average front-end transaction value is $50. Cost you $50 and they spend $50 with you on the front end. Well, that means that you broke even on the front end. You acquired a customer with no real expense. But now, because you know that the average lifetime customer value is $1,000, you stand to generate $950 of profit for every new customer you get. And that's why lifetime customer value is key. Now, as you get more advanced and your business matures and your cash flow grows, what you'll find is that you can speed up the growth of your business by going negative on the front based on the lifetime customer value. And what I mean by that is that if you know that the average customer is worth $1,000 to you over the life of their patronage to your company, and you know that on average, you generate $50 on the front-end transaction, well, would it be worth it to you to invest $60 to generate a new $50 customer, meaning every new customer that you get in that front-end transaction, you lose $10? Well, the answer is yes, because you know that you're going to generate an additional $950 from that customer over the life of their patronage in your company. The reality is that it all depends on how quickly you bring that customer from the first transaction to the second transaction, from that first transaction to the back end. How quickly do you go from negative to profitable? For right now, though, what I want you to understand is that lifetime customer value gives you insight into how much profit you stand to gain for every single new customer you acquire with your front-end marketing funnel.